Storm of Stories is a festival of storytelling that takes place in Aldeburgh, Leiston and in the local area. So Storm of Stories 2014 is a 10-day festival, much bigger than the last one in 2012, to bring in far more people, to bring in members of the community, old people, young people, professionals from all over the world, dancers, singers, actors, storytellers.
Where does she come from? What's her family name? Where does she come?
Wonderful Beast really does believe in reaching out to the community, involving them and engaging them as much as possible in our work. I think that's what makes us unique, different from many, many other festivals, wonderful as they may be. This is what we really are developing in a big way. This Storm of Stories started with the Six Swans, a community opera, bringing in 2 schools, an adult scratch choir, professional singers, a professional dancer and actor, young musicians from Aldeburgh Young Musicians and our professional musicians, all coming together.
There are no mistakes, you've just got to go for it. And sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't go right on night, sometimes it does, and there's a risk involved. And, life involves risks, and it just brings you to the edge, a very nice edge.
My name is Paul Strager and I work for a company called Cape on Sizewell B Power Station. It's a nuclear power station. I've got into this sea shanty singing, and I got invited to come to the Six Swans to do this performance, and thoroughly enjoyed myself. Yeah, it's been absolutely marvellous really. I've never done anything like that before in my life, not performing to a choir or anything, so I think I've done a good job, and they're very pleased of me.
The main reason we do the job is to find out where that sort of kernel of joy is when we make music. You see it never more clearly with children or amateurs who really want to do it. I think it keeps our feet on the ground and gives a great perspective to other work. It's probably the best education as a professional singer you can have.
Why won't she talk to me?
Go on, you have a try.
Tell us your name, girl.
Not like that.
Bright as an angel is calm in a tree, shy as a forest fawn, still she won't talk to me, brave as a warrior.
To see an opera singer sing in the way that we just did alongside children from all of the local primary schools, it's just there's just something amazing about it.
I thought it was marvellous.
I thought it was very, very good.
Yeah. The children were great, absolutely great.
And would you like to see more of this kind of thing?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
quite captivating, quite enchanting.
A lot of energy, great score, a good community
really
project.
Good acting, yeah. I think the main thing was really good community feel.
When you're older, yeah, I did that on other people. And then it's a good thing to look back on.
Our next event is Gathering Stories, which is with 2 writers, Julia Blackburn and Caroline Moorhead, talking about how they interview people, how they find interesting stories and how they turn them into books.
I remember this with the Aborigines in Australia when they told stories. And then suddenly it could be a story of 50 years ago, or it could be a story of the creation of the world. But suddenly it was saying, oh, here comes the mountain, oh, here comes the policeman. And they go into the present. And these people are also storytellers. So that as something becomes vivid, it shifts into the present.
These stories are still quite toxic. People believe that they are their own. And one of the difficulties of this new book is that quite a lot of people are still alive. And they've all got different versions of what actually happened.
if you can find the word for something, then it's going to be all right. You're going to, you know, once you find the word, you've defined it. And he was very fond of this Prospero's quote, this thing of darkness I do call my own. He just said, find the metaphor, and then your things will make sense afterwards. So I think that was a very nice gift.
The next event is In the Dark, Dark Woods, which is storytelling for the very young. And that's going to be happening in Framlingham Library and Leiston and Aldeburgh Libraries, and also 2 primary schools. This is storytelling for early years, an age group that actually gets neglected very often.
She slammed the door. A wicked witch I am. I don't like eggs or ham, but children's so sweet make the perfect treat when stuffed with gingerbread and jam. Lovely children! I'm looking forward to eating them.
Can you do a witchy laugh? Your best witchy laugh. Go for it.
Actability Inclusive Theatre Company will be coming to Leiston Primary School with their performers of disabled and abled artists and working all day with the children there.
A story? How is that going to help me to find something else for my grandma?
We're an inclusive theatre company working chiefly with people with learning disabilities. It's about learning disabled people learning that children aren't a threat, and it's also the other way on, so that children can learn that learning disabled people are as much part of society as the rest of us.
And how did you find working with all the kids from the school?
They work really hard and make a big effort to help out. I love being a tree to help others get involved.
Every season, this tree put on a show for the kids.
This Storm of Stories is actually bringing in far more storytellers than we had before, and one of whom is Paul Jackson, who will be telling his stories around the fireside in the Golden Key pub on Wednesday.
Oh, Grandmother, he's looking at you with those eyes. Grandmother, he's reaching out with his hand. Grandmother, reach out.
So Foraging for Fables is at the Aldeburgh Bookshop, and it's local people reading from their favourite childhood stories, and they're people from age 9 to 90, and telling us a little bit about why they love them so much.
He shrugged off his school bag and leapt into the canal. He knew he was good enough swimmer, so he wasn't worried about drowning, only about getting cold and wet.
The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow. Not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. Or he sometimes shoots up taller like an India rubber ball, and he sometimes gets so little that there's none of him at all.
What's your name? Said Violet Elizabeth. She lisped. She would, thought William bitterly, with those curls and those skirts. She would.
I lived in a house without books. My family didn't have books. But I had an aunt and uncle who had what I would call these days a library.
The thing about Toad is, what I like him, is that he's very naughty. He's funny, he's very naughty, but unlike William, he's not very moral, I don't think.
After the success of Life Stories in 2012, we thought we had to do another one. Local people come and tell us stories about their childhood and life and times gone by in the local area.
Supposed to be looked up to the Wimpers, you know, you were the maids.
Did you look up to them, Pam?
Well, I left school at 15, but my sister worked for them.
Yes.
And when you went up to the house, you mustn't go. I took some stuff back to my sister, and I went to the front gate.
Really?
Yes, I did. My mother carefully told me, you go along the path, keep to the path, and go in that little iron gate. I didn't, I went in the big gates.
It's Miss Marsh.
Miss Marsh.
Yeah, and I can see her now, because I used to see her so close up, because she was all shaking me, because I used to get all my sums right. And then she'd come round to mark them and she'd say, oh, you've got this right there. Where's your workings?
I haven't got any work. That's because I was... I did know somebody who did quite a bit of poaching, which was, you know, okay if you were daring enough. But that was when pheasants were about £4 or £5 a brace. I mean, he'd go out and get probably 10 brace at night, because people would ask him, you know, can you get me pheasants? Because pheasants to the ordinary man in the street was a luxury. It was only the big landowners and that who had them on a regular basis that were used to them. But he would go out and get, you know, 10 brace, but 50 quid a night. It's, you know, that's worth having.
In the Jubilee Hall, Toop, the story spinner, will be entertaining a family audience.
As the Amakosa walked down the side of the mountain, looking behind him, he could see the clouds getting further and further away, and the village growing larger and larger. The people, they rubbed their thumbs together, and their mouths hang down to the ground.
I'm so thrilled that we have the Epic Jukebox with us, a group from the Crick Crack Club of amazing storytellers from all over the world who are drawing their storytelling techniques from ancient Indian traditions.
I have a story for you that begins with none other than Lord Shiva! He was holding onto the plough, and he was ploughing the fields for his mother. He walked up to the house, and he could hear all the sound from the feast there, and he opened the door and he said, "Ah! Headless."
Every story was different, and there's a lot to think about.
They're not only telling you the story, you're kind of feeling how it affects them as well.
I've never seen anything like it before, so I don't know how to describe it, but it was so exciting.
It was good fun. Good night, really enjoyed myself.
You were completely focused on the teller, but then there was music around. It felt like a film because it was so well timed and it was so well orchestrated.
Yeah, it was quite rude. It's quite cheeky. Quite like that though. Best stories are always a little bit rude.
Wait! There's more!
In the Pump House, Aldeburgh Pump House, there's a lovely exhibition of paintings and drawings by the children from Aldeburgh Primary School of forests and trees, which the public can come in and add to and create a forest installation. This installation will grow and grow over the weekend, culminating in the leading storyteller in this country, Ben Haggerty, coming and telling 2 stories from the forest.
Respect! At the edge of the forest, there were 2 friends, Big Rock and Little Rock. And why shouldn't they be friends?
So we talked about this and that and everything else, and he said, but your stories, are they important? And I said, oh, I think so. He said, but are they really important? I hope so. He said, shall I tell you a really important story?
We are part of the wonderful beasts, a forest of stories and storytellers. There's been storytelling and stories and literature and books all week.
Just seems to have grown since last year in its scale and its ambition, and I was just totally blown away and very moved by it.
It's a fantastic theatre company, especially because it combines professionals and actors and people of different disciplines and tries to, you know, create the best work it can from a combination of people and their strengths, which is always going to provide interesting work and, you know, change the way people think about things.
I really believe that creativity brings everybody together, and Wonderful Beast do that really, really well.
We all need stories. We need to tell stories, we need to hear stories, we need to listen to people's stories to make sense of our own lives. Because life is a story, where we all have a story. From one moment you might have an absolutely professional event, and the next moment it's local people telling their own life stories. This is what we believe in. They're all important, all equally important.